Hey guys, welcome to another Grit podcast. Hanging out with Andrew Waters.
Waters.
I put a little L in there sometimes just because of my country accent, I guess. But so, where are you from and what do you do?
Originally from Australia, and I'm now the stallion manager at Valley Equine.
Okay.
Been there 6 years,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a great job and great people to work for.
How long you been in the States?
I moved over here in '99
Yeah.
and spent 2 years back in Australia. That'd be 9 years ago, and did thoroughbreds, and totally loved it. I thought the thoroughbred industry is very sharp, very smart people, very advanced on what they do. And then Jeremy, he offered me the position to come over here and manage the stallions for him.
Gotcha. Well, back in Australia, is there something that gravitated you towards the Western industry, or?
Yeah, I grew up in a horse family.
Okay.
My mom was very accomplished rider. My dad was very good at camp drafting and English riding. And then I didn't have much of a choice, I was born into that. And then I did pony club like a lot of Australian people do. And then I gravitated into show jumping, and then the camp drafting world. And
So what is the pony club for?
Pony club in Australia, it's just kids in their own areas.
Like 4-H here?
4-H is
Okay.
probably equivalent to that. And each town has a pony club. And then you ride English, you ride show jumping, you do flags, barrels, you do all kinds of events. And I think that's why Australian people can be so versatile in what they do in the horse business, because they've been exposed to a lot of different things.
I got you. A lot of different disciplines. And
Yeah.
stuff.
And I think that definitely helps in the long run.
So mom showed in that?
Yeah, my mom was a foundation member of the pony club, and my dad was as well.
I got you.
And then my dad was very good at the English riding and in the camp drafting.
Did you do much English riding?
I did enough anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice, but I did enough, and it was good. I mean, it definitely helped my riding, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've never done it, but I would assume it helps you with your riding ability tremendously, because there's not a whole lot going on other than you got to ride.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
And you learn how to sit on a horse properly, and yeah, it definitely helps.
Got you. So, wife, kids?
No, single and married to my job, and love every bit of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's most people in the horse industry, especially if they're doing what you're doing, or, in the breeding programs. I mean, that's a full-time, all-the-time job.
Yeah, it's 24/7 pretty well. It's 6 months of the year we're breeding horses, and the other 6 months of the year, you're freezing on horses, and, you're out there looking for the next great stud, and, then I go home for a month every year to see family, and then come back and get ready for the new season.
So is the horse industry there is good as it is in America, or?
It's getting better.
Yeah.
With the influence of all the bloodlines that we have to offer over here. They breed a lot of, I can only speak for Valley Equine, but they breed a lot to the stallions there. Okay. And they use those for the camp drafting, the cutting, obviously. And then they get into the roping with them and the barrel racing and things like that.
Are you saying camp drafting?
Yeah.
So what is that?
So camp drafting, it's like working cow horse.
Okay.
But it's in a big open field.
Okay.
And you pretty much doing a barrel pattern.
Oh, okay.
So you box your cow first, and then they open the gates, and you go out, and then you take that cow around a figure of 8 course.
I got you.
So, and Australia's the only country that has it.
Okay, that's maybe why I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah. But a very good sport. A lot of great horsemen come out of that. And it's a huge sport back home.
Is there quite abundance of cattle to work like there is here? It's like
There is.
Is there?
You're going to work a lot more steers than heifers. Australia's a big steer country.
Okay.
But I've been going for so long, it may have changed, but I kind of feel like it's probably a lot more steers than heifers.
Got you.
To work.
So you worked in the thoroughbred industry first when you came?
When I graduated college, I worked for a big polo outfit in Australia.
Okay.
A man by the name of Kerry Packer. He was Australia's richest man. Owned big places in the Northern Territory in Queensland, and then I worked at Elliston for him as a colt starter. We did about 160 colts a year.
Oh, wow.
And there was 3 of us. And we would get them colts started, turn them out, and then bring them back in. And as we went down the list of horses, we would start stick and balling them after they've been out for a few months and then come back through.
Gotcha.
So we did that, and got to meet a lot of great polo players from all over the world, especially from Argentina, some of the greats from there. And then Kerry Packer, he owned a place in England and in Argentina, so the horses would come a full circle. The mares would go from Australia to England, playing the Gold Cup there and the Queen's Cup, and then go to Argentina, playing the big polo games there, and then come back to Australia to be bred. So that some of the mares made a full circle.
Oh, wow. You do any polo?
No, not really. I mean, I stick and ball the 2-year-olds, but that was as far as it ever went.
I got you. That's a very, I haven't learned a whole lot about polo, but I've interviewed some guys that played it, and it's been very learning. It's just something we don't talk about much around here. So it's like, there's a polo club up north of Little Elm here in Texas, but it's a whole different sport that I had no idea what I was involved in it.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot to it. And it's very intriguing to hear about it, and how it works and how it evolves and all that stuff. Is it mostly warm blood or?
No, well, the ones in Australia were thoroughbred, crossed with our stock horses.
Okay.
So the stock horse was like the whaler that went to the First World War, the light horseman.
Okay.
So it came from the thoroughbred influence, and then your Brumby and horses like that, they crossed, and then that's what the horseman took to war. Oh, so they've come from those lines, and then they've put some of the quarter horse bloodlines into them as well.
Gotcha.
So they want a fast horse, but a horse that can rate, ball, and then be real soft in the bridle.
Okay, I didn't know that. So graduated college, and then from there
did Elliston, and then a position came available to come to Texas in '99. And to work for the Bar H Ranch, Paul and Winston Hansmer, and Bobby Pigeon, the owner. Mm-hmm. So that was a great opportunity to come over and work for those 2 guys. They were futurity champions and, Derby champions, and, they were the hot trainers at that time. And spent 3 really good years there.
Yeah.
And then I had a chance to go work for Ronnie Rice.
Okay.
And I spent a lot of time there at Ronnie's, and that was phenomenal, to work for a great horseman as well as a great horse trainer.
So as when you're younger years, did you have somebody you idolized towards that you kind of looked up to kind of get to where you're at today, or?
Yeah, in Australia, I probably looked up to a couple of guys, one, my dad for sure.
Sure.
There was another man, Bob Palmer, very good horseman. I looked up to him, and there was another man, John Stanton, was very good, accomplished horseman. He probably brought the first quarter horse to Australia. I looked up to him a lot too. He's still riding today. He's 94 years old.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't compete, but still rides horses and trains dogs, and very accomplished horseman. And I looked up to him as well. You
think having knowing what a good horseman is and all that, does that help you in your current status or what you do for a living?
Oh, absolutely.
How does it play in that?
I think that handling stallions, I don't think it's for everybody. Mm-hmm. They're not the easiest horse to handle, and I think if you're a pretty handy horseman, you can get around them and you can do your job very well. If you don't have that grit and that horseman knowledge, I don't think managing stallions is for that person. Right. Because, at the moment we have 33 stallions at Valley Equine, and, it's a full-time job, and, by the time you exercise them and collect on them during the morning and then prepare them for parades and things like that, you've got to be pretty switched on and you can't afford to make mistakes.
So when you first, just say you walk up to the stud first time, do you have an evaluation just off the feel of his eye and his?
Yeah, absolutely. You step into a stall with a stud and you face up to him and you look at him and you can read a stud pretty quickly.
Yeah.
If you've been around it enough, you definitely can. A novice person, probably not.
Right.
But I feel like I've been fortunate enough from the people I've learned from and being around stallions for such a long time now, I feel like that I can go into a stall and get a really good read on a stud very quickly.
Yeah. Some people look at me like I'm cross-eyed when I talk about this kind of stuff, but I feel that way with, animals in general and people too.
Yep.
You can get a lot of feel off of them, and even especially when the more you know them, the more you can tell from a distance what's going to happen.
Yeah.
With them or how they're going to react or how they're going to handle something. But people, when you start talking about animals, they look at me a little weird. It's like I can most of the time tell how something's fixing to go, or if I'm in a bind or fixing to be in a bind or what have you, and it's just being around them enough, and you'll know.
Well, I think a horse also tells you, they're a very good judge of character, horses anyway, kind of like a dog or anything. But for me, a horse is a very good judge of character. For me to take care of them and to handle them, and I feel like we feed off each other.
Yeah. So what does your day-to-day look like?
So we start about 5:30 in the morning. We do our medicine, any horse that needs meds, and then we give mineral and vitamins and all the medicine side of things. And then we start the first lot of horses on the treadmill, on the walker, and then we start to turn out. And then we've got a list of what stallions we need to collect for that day. And then I'll go ahead and prep them, tie them up, brush the manes and tails out and have them ready to go. And then by 7:30, we're pretty much ready to start collecting.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah.
And you know the night before roughly who you're going to collect and what studs are going to be popular. So we can go ahead and get those guys out of the way.
Is it the studs set, like they don't collect every day?
Every other day.
Every other day. Okay. I got you. So, I guess I know it's probably a weird question, but do they know when it's time for, like, they know it's their day?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're not,
absolutely.
Is this off the ruckus of what's going on for like hot mares or just they know it's been a day?
They know, like I can walk down the aisle with just a regular halter, but then I can walk down the alleyway with a halter with a chain, and they know straight away.
Yeah.
They know straight away.
Right.
And they get where, once the season's about in the middle of it, they'll get where they know it's their day or that it's not their day.
Right.
So yeah, they're a very smart animal.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And I tell people too, like, in the horse industry, these horses are taken better care of than we take care of ourselves 99% of the time. If they're an athlete, there's so many things that they're going through or being pampered to keep them a quality of life is unbelievable. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. We're very fortunate there. We have the treadmill and we have a spa for the stallions. We have plenty of turnouts. They get turned out a lot. We've got the horse walker. We've got best veterinarians on staff. So yeah, the studs are very fortunate.
Yeah.
And then, we take up a small part of that too, but it takes a amount of people to make it all work.
Sure. Yeah, that's a process for
Yeah.
sure. What have you seen as far as technology since you got in the breeding side of it to now has developed so well?
I think definitely the technology in the labs have improved. Your semen counters, your AVs, and just the mechanical side of things, from being able to process quality semen to put it out the door has come a long way with extenders and everything like that. And then, going into where we are in the collection room, I think just the phantoms have become a lot better, hydraulic phantoms nowadays. You've got protection boots for the stallions for their knees, and just a lot of better systems put into place for the safety of the stud, really.
Yeah, keep them safe.
Yeah.
'Cause they're just like a young boy when they get excited. They're pawing or doing their thing, whatever, one way or another, showing off to their stud.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're fortunate. Our breeding shed's very closed in. So once they go into that room, it's just the stud and myself and the mare and the collector, and they get comfortable with that. And yeah, they can concentrate on their job.
I got you. So with the new technology and stuff, is that obviously done for the safety, but also to get better quality semen, better results from the semen? Is there anything that you would change differently in this, or something you'd like to see injected into the market that would help, that maybe nobody's thought of yet?
Not really. I mean, I think it's very good right now, the industry, and it's on a high. A lot of great results coming out with the way that people are processing their semen, and everyone processes different.
Sure.
People are trained different, and I could process one way and you could process another way, and we still get the same result at the end of the day. But I think with the technology out there, that there's no margin for error anyway. I think that everyone's looking for the same result, and that's to get mares bred. But at the end of the day, you're only as good as your team.
Sure.
And if everyone fulfills their position in the group, yeah, you've got a great result.
Sure. But
I don't think that any changes. I think everything's quite good right now.
Yeah, I got you. Is there, if a client, or say a person, an investor, or I think a lot of some of the business side of the industry, there's people that are just money suppliers, so to speak. They're a partner on a deal, but they have no clue what they're looking at. Why? What would be good things that they would need to know when they're going, say they have a stud? What would be a good interview question or information you think would be helpful for them to make sure that their money, as an investor, things to pay attention to? Or if you're interviewing a breeding farm, what are some of the qualities you think, or things they need to hear? Like when I build something, I try to tell clients, okay, well, if they've been building houses for 5 years, they haven't learned all the problems yet.
Yeah.
Because there's just no way. You can go to school, you can learn all the techniques, you can work for somebody else, but everybody has their own technique, their own way of doing things. You haven't worked all the kinks out in 5 years. So that's kind of what I kind of spill, to give you an example, what I would say.
For sure.
For me, but for the breeding farms and stuff, I didn't know if there was something like that.
I think, personally, that, if you were to go out and try and buy a stud, you'd want to be with someone that's very reprimandable and very good about what they do, and get with the right person that's going to fit you. And I also think that, you've got to sit down with them and say, look, this is a 3-year deal before you're going to see your babies start in the show pen or any discipline they're going to go to. It's a slow process and it's a waiting game. But you also need to look at the facilities. I don't think you have to have the fanciest facilities. I think you just have to have the best workable facilities, and you have to have the best people in charge of it. Because at the end of the day, your horse can be in the fanciest stall there is, but is he being taken care of by the best person?
Right.
And, that's one thing I've tried to pride myself on, is giving the owners that we have faith that I take care of them like I own them.
Right. So is there a reporting system, like say you have XYZ stud, is there a backside, like a portal or something that y'all report to that the customers can see, or it's just they call in for an update or what have you?
Yeah, like I'll call them and let them know how their horse is doing, or if they want to call me, they're 100% got my number and they can call me anytime they want, 24/7. I'll send photos to them of their stallions, whether it be out in the pasture, having a nap in the stall, just so they can see their horses happy.
Yeah.
And, if we do a photo shoot, we'll send some photos to the owner.
Yeah.
And let them know that, hey, their horse is very well taken care of.
Yeah. I've noticed that in my business, there's people that, there's a lot of people I haven't even met that I bill for that they want to see what's going on, a progress report for the day or an update on their project, where it is in status or what is going on with it. So I didn't know if y'all had something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, if you don't have, your customer doesn't have faith in you, they don't have faith in anything.
Sure.
Especially with their horse, because they're such a valuable animal, and we are providing a service for them. And I feel like if we don't give them feedback, well, we're not providing a service.
Right. I like asking professionals these kind of questions because my food on the table relies on the horse industry just as much as it does yours, because I got to build facilities and things for this, and I have horses myself. So, knowing these things, when you bring in what I see when the horse market gets good, is there's a lot of people coming into it.
Yep.
But they're coming in it they're not feathering the brake at all. They're coming full steam ahead, and there's people that will take that without saying, "Hey, what's this stud going to cost me a month to own? When's it going to have a return, if possible?"
Yep.
There's just things like that I think people need to hear from professionals like you, that, hey, this is not a gold mine when you go in here. Absolutely. Sometimes. And just because you have money doesn't mean you're going to make it back as quick as you want. You need to ask those kind of questions, just like investing in anything.
Oh, absolutely.
But, I just want people to have that information, because I need the horse industry to thrive, and I love it too.
Yep.
I have passion for it. So it's like I like to educate people as much as I can about, treat this as we don't know nothing about the industry, and ask people like you, what do we need to watch for when we're investing, or what, those kind of questions.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things is, and sometimes it can get me into trouble, but you just have to be honest and truthful with them, because there's too many people out there that'll just coach them along, and then that's it. They don't tell them what to expect at the end of the day. They'll just tell them half the story, and they just tell them enough what they want to hear. Yeah. And it'll come out in the wash at the end of the day. Yep. So just be truthful with them and let them know, hey, this can happen, and it's possible it will happen. Right. And that's how you take care of your customer, and that's how you build a great relationship with the customers. Just be honest with them. Yeah, 100%. And honesty goes a long ways with everything. But, last thing we need is somebody excited to get in the market, because it's new to them, and it's like anything new, and it has the capability to make money. You want to make sure they stay in the market. Absolutely. Not be in it 4 or 5 years and they're so burned out. And because what that does is just push everybody away from us harder. Yeah. Their mouth feeding the fire of don't even go nowhere near. And it's the guys like us that are doing a good job that it's like we do a good job. I'm sorry you got a bad relationship or a bad experience with somebody, but not all of us are that way. No, exactly. And I like to spend time educating and talking to people on this podcast to help with that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen some great people come and go in the industries of all over, not just the cutting world, but the running horse world and everything, and yet it's sad to see those people go, because they do a great job for the industry, and they pour a lot of money into the industry, and then when they've had enough, their time's up, and then they move on, and they go explore other things, and there's a hole left. Sure. And, we're grateful if someone comes in and fills that hole, but if not, you just have to move on until the next really good person comes along and wants to explore the industry. Right. But as long as they're taken care of the right way, that's the main thing. I agree. What is something about you that would surprise somebody to know? Very driven. They'd be surprised? Yeah, because people never see me outside of work. Oh, okay. Got you. So, during work, it's just everyday work, but I'm very driven. I don't take no for an answer. I work as hard as I expect my staff to work. Sure. I wouldn't do anything that they can't do either. Sure. And I think that you have to be a leader in that way. Right. So, yeah, I feel like that if I can set a good example for people, that, it will help carry on. Yeah.
So what advice would you give to somebody that if they were wanting to be in to pursue a career in the breeding side of the industry, what would you recommend, or what would you give them for advice about it?
I would tell somebody that you're going to have to work very, very hard, and it's long hours. You're going to have very thick skin.
Yeah.
If you got soft skin, don't even get into it, because there's no room for criers, but just work really hard and get in with the right people. Just don't go and take a job with any breeding farm. Make sure it's the right one that you want to be part of.
Sure.
And it's in the industry that you enjoy. I tell a lot of people they should go work with Thoroughbreds for 2 years and then come back and do our business, the quarter horse deal. It's so much easier. It's a walk in the park, the quarter horse deal, compared to the Thoroughbred world. Because, Thoroughbred world, you're cleaning your own stalls. You're hands-on. You're collecting 4 times a day stallions.
One stallion?
Yeah, one stallion. He can collect 3 to 4 times a day.
Oh, wow.
You're cleaning straw boxes. So all the guys have to clean their own stalls. There's no Spanish boys to do that. Halter breaking, you're teaching babies to lead day one that they're born. So it's a lot harder.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They want that because they want the person that's engaged with them to be around them at all times. Yeah. Nobody knew. So
they want that person to be hands-on, leading that baby in and out of the stall every day to the pasture or to be checked. And yeah, it's a lot longer hours.
I didn't know that.
And bigger numbers.
Really? Wow. So how many would one person have to manage? So
some of those barns, there can be 80 mares in a barn.
Oh, wow.
With foals,
Right.
And then a lot of their livestock's outside. They live outside. Like in Australia, we foaled mares out in the paddock. We had probably 30 little pens, and every mare foaled in those. A lot cleaner. So they did that, and then, you're just part of it.
Gotcha. But how many horses would they be in charge of? That one person be 80?
Yeah, and then they would have probably 3-4 staff members, and that would be their facility.
Their facility, okay. Got you.
So you have one manager, and then they oversee probably 3 members.
I got you. How many? So you are at your current position now. You are how about 30?
32 stallions right 32. Now.
Okay. You don't have a favorite?
No, I don't. And the reason being, they're all great horses.
Sure.
They truly are. And to walk into that barn and you look around and you see the horses that we stand, it's impossible to have a favorite. They've been great horses in their own right, and they've won numerous and numerous awards. And yeah, you just can't pick one. They're just so great.
How many disciplines within those 32 studs are they all
So we have cutting, cow horses, roping, and barrels.
Okay. I got you. And is there a lot of barrels studs?
Yeah, we've got 5 barrel studs.
Oh, really?
And then there's people that'll come in, the ladies will come in and breed their running mare to the cutting horses.
Sure.
So it's kind of diverse, how they work it.
Gotcha. So if you had the all-time favorite quarter horse from old bloodlines to new, what would it be? Dead or alive?
I was very partial to a horse I managed at the Lazy Corona Cartel. Mm-hmm. Just a great-natured horse. And he put the biggest, kindest brown eye onto all these babies. I was very attached to that horse. And he come from the Hollandese bloodlines. He was probably a standout in the running horse side of things. Shorty Leaner, I was very partial to those horses when I worked for Ronnie Rice. We rode a lot of those horses, and so yeah, they were very trainable horses to us. They're a little hotter, but they fitted the program
Right.
that he had, and he was very successful with them.
Yeah.
So I think those two bloodlines for me have stood out. You know, obviously Highbrow Cat's amazing as well,
Sure.
and Dual-Ray's always been a great influence on the industry as well. But those two really stood out to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to some other horsemen and trainers and stuff before, and one thing I've asked them, I said, what do you think's different about the old bloodlines versus the newer bloodline as far as their disposition or how they handle things? Or
I think the newer horses might be a little easier for the guys to train. I think the older horses had better bone to them and a little bit more substance and a bit more size. Luckily, we're getting back to having some bigger studs now, and I think that's great for the industry.
Sure.
I think we lost that part for a while, and now it's coming back. But I think the newer studs are probably a lot easier to train. You know, the guys don't have to work as hard at it because those horses want to train.
yeah.
Where yesteryear's horses were a little tougher and they had to put a lot more time in on them.
Mm-hmm. It's funny, you've all said the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I can really tell when somebody's been around and really a horseman. So it's like having that same answer is pretty much mirrors what the other ones have said.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, and that was a common thing, is they become easier because they weren't so hard-headed or thick-headed, but, you know, the bone structures and all that's all been the same.
Yeah.
For sure. So what do you do for fun besides work?
Try to rest as much as I can. In the off season, you know, I don't mind. Like, I'll try and go to a baseball game or a basketball game. I enjoy just traveling around out in the country, just driving around and looking at different places, you know, big cattle operations or horse operations. Try to go to Kentucky and look at all the thoroughbreds up there because it's just something different. And, yeah, you know, a bit of a homebody as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you spend enough time around people, you can count to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So what is your favorite discipline for you to participate in?
I enjoyed the cutting, very much so. I think it's pretty remarkable what a horse can do, you know, with that ability, how they read a cow and things like that. I'm probably more partial to the camp drafting because that's what I grew up doing.
Sure.
Horse is a little different, bro. You ride in a snaffle all the time. You're going at high speed and then you got to shut down, a bit like the cow horse deal, but they're, you know, but they're probably the two disciplines that stand out the most. You know, I enjoy a great horse no matter what he does.
Sure.
It can be a dressage horse, it can be a show jumper. It doesn't matter. As long as they're a great horse and a good horse, I enjoy watching them. You know, I think that every discipline, there's great horses and there's great trainers.
Yeah.
But those two, to me, probably stand out the most.
What do you think your biggest quality is?
Oh, I think my biggest quality is the service I provide to the stallions. You know, like I'm with them all the time. I care for them. I treat them like they're mine. I'm very protective of them. I think that's probably my biggest quality for them is the horse, you know, because they are my life and that's all I know. But yeah, I think that's my biggest quality is being their caretaker.
So, you know, the outside world looking at, when they hear stallion, they think, you know, my brain or when I've chatted with people about it, it's like they think Mustang wild, you know, study, you know, acting up, acting a clown or excited, what have you. But is there a stud in particular that is just a big lover boy? He just falls. He's just a cool guy to be around. He's not.
Yeah, you know, the whole barn is packed full of great horses.
Right.
And the friendliest horses. You know, they're happy to see you. They'll all come to the front gate. They'll all hang their head over the gate, and they want to be your friend. You know, there's not one that really stands out, but they're all a great group of horses. They really are. And you'll go and put a halter on them, and they'll all rub on you, and not in a bad way. They're just happy to see you, and they'll whinny when you walk down the aisle. And yeah, it makes you feel good when at the end of the day you can walk down through the barn, and they're all eating, and then when you walk through, they all come to the front gate.
Right.
And I feel like that's a great feeling.
Yeah. I just think to get that perception out there that that's not what you see on TV or what you might think is a stallion. They're not all.
No,
like
they're
that.
definitely not like that.
And most of the time people that are very good at what they do don't want to be around that.
Yeah.
Behavior. It's not welcomed.
And it's out there. I'm sure there's plenty of stud farms that have seen that.
Sure.
People have a bad rep on the thoroughbred world because their stallions are so mean and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's how you handle them from a young horse.
Sure.
And yeah, they get treated different at the track and things like that. They'll spoil them a lot more at the track, and they'll get away with things because they're like, oh, don't whip him because if he's biting you, because that'll stop his run.
Sure.
And so you inherit a few little things along the way, but it doesn't take long. You can sort that out pretty quick, and yeah, they're big puppy dogs at the end of the day.
Sure. Do y'all use teasing studs?
No, we don't. I think it would be handy for positions like we're in at Valley Equine and all the other stud farms. I think it'd be great to have little teasing studs running through the barn with somebody in the mornings, and it would save a lot of time for our vets. They can concentrate on other things. But I think a little teasing stud running through, checking mares and teasing mares, and then they can pull them out, ultrasound them, and if she's good, let's breed her. If not, she might be ready tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I think personally it would be a great idea.
Yeah. Well, it's been 25 years since I've been around the breeding industry. I worked at a breeding farm, so we had a little stud, little bitty dude. We just walk him up and down the mare motel, and just see who's hot.
Yep.
And that little sucker thought he was 12 foot tall and bulletproof,
Yep.
But I mean, he got the job done.
They love their job, and
they're loud. Like he was small enough you could handle him,
Yep.
but he had enough attitude. He would stir them all up the way you wanted.
Yeah,
you know what I
absolutely.
mean. So it was funny just watching him react to that and just acting a fool. Not acting a fool, but he was putting on a
He knew
show.
his job
And
anyway.
all the ladies are watching, like little sucker. But no, I didn't know if that was still a thing or not.
No, it's not. In the thoroughbred world, yes, absolutely. Right. But in the quarter horse world, in the AI business, no, not as much.
I got you. And how many reset mares y'all carry?
I believe there's about 1,500 reset mares there.
Woo! Wow. Those things have gone up a lot.
Yeah, they have. They're very expensive. And Jeremy's done a great job putting them all together. He's a class act in everything he does.
He is.
And he's pretty much built that place from the ground up, and he's got a good group of partners, but he's the ramrodder of it all.
Yeah, I can see the passion in him about the stuff he does. It's always been top notch, all the way around.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
Yeah. So if you had to give advice to an 18-year-old or yourself at 18, what would that advice be?
I would tell myself at 18 now, do what you wanted to do in the horse business. Like, set goals, go do it. But first of all, have a trade behind you, so you got something to fall back on. The horse business isn't for everyone. You might think it is, and then when times get tough, you might think, gee, I wish I had something else to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell myself, go get a trade, have that. You can fall back on it. If you get hurt or something happens to you, you can go back and be a builder, be a butcher, whatever the case is. But have a trade, and that's what I'd tell myself.
Yeah, that's good advice. When we're talking to the youth in the different industries, that's pretty much what I'm telling them. Have something else to fall back on.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with being an electrician or a plumber, and even for just to learn it while you're young. So that way, when you can do it for yourself when you get older, when you want to build something. You know, I was one of the biggest insults if my kids went out and hired somebody else to build their own stuff. That would be an insult. Like, you should know, your dad's a builder. Like, you should know how to do this stuff. You don't need to hire a general contractor.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a big thing in the horse industry. You don't realize you can get hurt. There's things about it, and you can't be soft because you will get hurt.
Yep.
Because you're messing with the animals a lot bigger than you, and you know they can hurt you.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and it's not just because we want to be ugly to you. It's like you got to go through those steps and have something to fall back on. If you're, you know, not everybody's a horse trainer. They want to be one.
Yeah, exactly.
To some degree, but everybody has their own ways.
Yeah, 100%.
So if you had to define your grit with one word, what would it be?
Dedication.
Dedicated? Or dedication?
Dedication.
Dedication. Good one. Real good one. I mean, that's what it takes to do this.
Oh, yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't be in the position I am today if I didn't have it.
So what is your all-time, what do you want to be known for when you leave this earth?
That I was a good horseman. And then I gave 100% every day.
That's a good one. Don't leave nothing on the table.
Yeah. And, you know, I feel like the horseman is slowly going away. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in my position, it's my job to teach the next generation to be horsemen. You know, just like a lot of other horse trainers out there that are good horsemen, it's their job to teach their assistants to be good horsemen. Because unfortunately, the horseman's not there as much as it used to be.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, when I do pass, that I was a good horseman.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that's because it's work to be that.
Yeah.
And you got to have the passion behind it too, because that's what makes you want to be better to the horse. You know, when I was learning the rope when I was younger, it was like we weren't taught a lot about being horsemen. We were just cramming and jamming, and now the world of roping's changed so much. You know, if you want a horse to last long as you can, you want to be able to be successful. Consistency in how you handle your horse is completely part of the game now, or it didn't used to be.
Yeah.
You know, so I agree with that a lot. Well, Andrew, thank you for hanging out with us.
You bet. I appreciate you having me.
Learned a lot about you. Stay tuned to your next Grit Branded podcast.